Welcome back to Deaton Street. I'm Zach. He's Dustin. And today we're going to talk about how Apple finally realized who the iPad is really for. But before we do that, please consider giving us a like. Please consider subscribing. It helps the channel out a ton. We're still pushing to 150. I think we're at 147 right now. So
Yes.
very close. You could be our 150th subscriber.
Woohoo.
So that helps us out a ton. And we've really been enjoying the growth that we've seen on the channel. And that's all because of you. Dustin, Apple just announced their whole new line of iPads, and we think they're moving in the right direction. We think that they've finally realized something. You want to start us off with a quick recap of the iPad Air?
Yep. So, as probably a lot of you know, we watched the live event for Apple this morning, and they, like Zach said, dropped a bunch of news. The new Apple iPad Air comes with the M2 chip. Let me preface this. We're probably going to run through a lot of this because we got some thoughts on the back end. The iPad Air comes with the M2 chip. It's a new 13-inch model, and that goes for $799. And then they have an 11-inch model for $599. It comes in 4 colors. It's got a 12-megapixel camera. There's a bunch of other features in there that are really cool, but that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of the new iPad Air.
And the new iPad Pros come out. They have the M4 chip. So this is a brand new chip that's not in any computers. We think that's telling, and that's part of what we're going to tease out here in a second. We have an 11-inch model that goes for $999, a 13-inch model, which goes for $1,299. That's up from a 12.9-inch model. So they added just a little bit there. It's very light. It's very thin. The M4 chip is super duper fast was essentially what I got. And then they also have a new display. So it's an Ultra Retina XDR display with tandem OLED.
It's
so
nuts.
I'm sure Dustin's going to pull the Apple little thing with the
dual
tandem
layered OLED light. Yes, it is nuts.
Looks awesome. The other thing is it also has the option for like a nano glass that reduces a ton of glare for creators, for folks that are doing color grading and that type of thing. Real quick side notes. So iPad Air, I thought this was funny, is now lighter. It's now heavier than the iPad Pro. So the Air is actually the heavier of the two. The front cameras are now in landscape. So that's pretty interesting there.
Hint, hint. Wink.
And then quickly, Dustin, do you want to run through, just name off the rest of the stuff that Apple announced today?
Yeah. So a few of the other things, the first of which it pairs really well with the new iPads, is the new Apple Pencil Pro. That goes for $129. It's got haptic feedback, the barrel roll, gyroscope, squeeze gestures, a bunch of cool little features. The new Magic Keyboard. And it's only for the iPad Pro models. Yep. It's a larger touchpad, I'm sorry. And it basically makes your iPad feel like a MacBook per se, which is kind of cool. And then also they have a bunch of updates to Logic Pro, like some AI instruments that you can put in there. And then they have an update for Final Cut Pro, which does like live multicam functionality, and amongst other things. And it's optimized for the touchscreen on both of those. So they've completely reworked it, and it's Final Cut Pro 2 and Logic Pro 2.
Right. Which is confusing for us Mac users because we use Final Cut 10 and Logic Pro 10.
Exactly.
But super cool updates. And that really made me and Dustin think about the trajectory of the iPad as a device. That moving the camera to the landscape view, the new larger Magic Keyboard that turns the iPad Pro into essentially a kind of pared down MacBook that can almost do everything that a MacBook can do. And then you kind of pair that in with the pencil as well. They've added a lot of features to the pencil to make it a little bit easier for artists to use. It even showed them using the pencil to design some motion VFX, some animation going across the screen,
which was really cool.
Yeah. I think Apple has finally figured out that the iPad really is for the Apple creator. That person that has an iPhone, the person that wants to create either art or even content, YouTube
Yep.
content, music, and wants to use Apple products to do that, doesn't want to go outside the ecosystem in order to do that. And so I think for a long time, this was, for the MacBook Pro. Those folks, go get you a MacBook Pro, go get it beefed up. But
Yep.
there really is a niche in there, that kind of middle ground of folks that don't want to carry around a 16-inch MacBook Pro,
Mm-hmm.
but also want those like touchpad features of an iPad.
I found that like, and we had talked about it a little before, like the earlier iPads were like a tablet per se.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like a larger phone. That's kind of what they were doing. The recent iPads that had come out within the last couple of years or so had developed like the Procreate app and everything. And so it was definitely more for an artist.
Mhm.
With these updates, and this is kind of how we get in this idea of like they're going for the creative, is they're optimizing the video creation, they're optimizing the music creation, and as well as beefing up even more the artist, graphics, animation. So like it turns into like a one-stop shop
Yeah.
for any facet of content creation. Whereas before it was, oh, you can draw on this, and it has a pretty good deal, an interface for drawing and for art. But to pack all of that in one very slim, beefy iPad Pro is impressive.
It is. And, Apple's never first. They are, some would argue they're never best either. I would argue that sometimes they are best, but usually Apple's just solid. They weren't the first ones to have a pencil tablet that you could write on. They certainly weren't the first to have a tablet where you can record music, record video, and edit it. But once they implement those things, usually they work really well. And that darned ecosystem just makes everything so convenient moving back and forth. I think Apple resisted change, or at least didn't fully understand the direction they wanted to go with the iPads.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the fact that it took so long to move the camera from the portrait to the landscape is telling, right? Like, if the placement of the camera tells you how Apple intends this device to be used, right? And so I actually have my iPad Pro here. Like, I use this device in landscape mode.
Okay, landscape, yeah.
Almost exclusively. I also have the old, Magic trackpad, which is amazing. The old ones are great. I think this is the generation before the new ones that just got announced. And it is weird. It's as specific as this is. It just bugged the crap out of me when I would take a FaceTime call and I was not centered and it's just off. It's a weird place to do that. It makes sense on the iPhones because you're holding it up like this, but no one really wants to hold a big tablet like this.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. So I think that they're finally leaning into it. And I think that they were a little bit worried about doing that because they might have been worried about people deciding to buy an iPad instead of a MacBook. But I think that they've realized that those two things can coexist and they can get close to a MacBook with an iPad and not worry as much.
Well, also, I think they realized that a lot of if we're going in content creation, a lot of your content creators now, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever, they will create off of their phones.
Mm-hmm.
So why not beef up a larger touchpad system, a tablet, an iPad, for them to do what they got to do, and and make it for that.
Right.
That's what I'm excited about with it.
You should always buy a product based on what it can do right now. I'll caveat what I'm about to say, but I think later in the year we are going to get an iPad OS update. We didn't see much AI in this. We did see, the AI bassist and the new AI instruments in Logic, which has always been one of the coolest parts of Logic.
Yeah, that
The
was really
drummer.
cool.
They've had the drummer for a long time.
Really,
For as long as I've had Logic, which is 5-10 years,
quite a
somewhere in
while.
there. Yeah, they've always had the drummer, which is really nice. Like I'm a drummer myself, but it was
Mhm.
nice to get a feel for what the drum parts could be as I was laying down guitar parts if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. You do a lot more with cameras. What did you think about the multicam?
The multicam thing was really cool. The only thing that I wasn't sure of, and they just didn't really, because I mean it's Apple, like they're gonna promote all of their stuff, right?
Mhm.
So like they're monitoring the live feed on the iPad, and while they had little small iPhone rigs that
Yeah.
were filming these people like rock climbing or whatever, um, the iPhone cameras are much better than the iPad cameras.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to use those and the other reason being is they're smaller, they're, lighter to, move around. There's rigging and stuff that you can get for them. I mean, why not have the larger screen for the monitoring of that?
Yeah.
But having the multicam live view was really cool too. I'm not a Final Cut user,
Hmm.
um, but I mean, that's a pretty cool feature. So I mean, like I'm at some point in time, I might check that out if I want a live multicam view setup going. Like, I mean, that might be the way to go.
The other thing that I think is so cool about this is almost everyone has some form of iPhone, and I don't know how many iPhone, like what model numbers can
Yeah.
work with that kind of like multi-view. But if you have relatively upgraded iPhones and you're doing a podcast and you want a multi-view and you're
That's
just
it.
starting out, I mean, that's the way to do it now. Like that's the way to start, especially if you're going to upgrade to an iPad Pro and you can edit everything on the iPad. I
Yep.
mean, and you can stay all in the ecosystem if you love Apple.
Yep.
And I'm a big Apple fan. I wouldn't say like I'm in love with Apple, but I think that's just such a cool option. And I'm really glad that the iPad has a sense of direction. It seems
Oh,
like a firm
absolutely.
sense of direction too. I mean, it
Yeah.
was it last year that Final Cut and Logic finally
Logic.
came. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems
They
since
finally
then they
put it there.
understand. Yeah.
They put it there, and then they from this one they reworked it to be, touchpad, iPad friendly.
Yeah.
Which was a little, here you go, guys. We understand. We get you,
Yep.
which is cool.
So, I mean, all in all, I think it's cool. Dustin and I talked before this. My wife is actually in the market for a new iPad because
Yeah.
she's moving away from her Mac Mini. So, she's moving away from the computer and going just to an iPad. And so we're trying to figure out which one she's going to get. Probably won't be the Pro. I'd imagine it's probably going to be the Air. But we'll see. I really do think that this it's a pretty nifty device. Not huge upgrades over the other, but these marginal movements in the right direction are really encouraging, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, any final thoughts on the iPad? Are you going to get one? Are you going to get a Pro? You going to get the new pencil? Yeah,
Me?
maybe not. Yeah.
Well, see, that's okay. For being honest, I already have the last model, so I don't think this is a device where unless you're very rich and have crazy demands, or if you're
Right.
working on this all the time, that you can constantly upgrade like that. I know I can't afford it in my budget, but
If I was in the market for a new device like that, I would definitely get one of the iPad Pros.
yeah,
Uh, Solely because it's got the M4, and I've been wanting an iPad to be able to do the draw stuff.
yeah.
I want to make those cool animations, drop them over videos and stuff like that. That's just me though.
Yeah.
It's cool.
The only other thing that I have here is kind of teasing probably the video we're going to do after this. There wasn't a lot of mention of AI. Here and there was, right? AI basis, AI keyboard, machine learning.
Yeah.
But I think that Apple has a bigger AI upgrade for the iPad up their sleeve in the new iPad OS. And I
Mhm.
think that's coming in a few months.
Hmm.
We'll speculate about that in the next video on Friday.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you in a couple days.
All right.
Peace.
See ya.
I'm walking the streets of nowhere.